Good morning, everyone. Let's please stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. And in your thoughts, would you keep the family of Dave Hayes, who lost his father recently? And now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call today's meeting to order. We'll begin with approval of minutes for August 9th. I believe, Commissioner Burkett, you were absent that day, so any questions, comments, motion to approve August 9th?
Motion to approve minutes.
Second.
Have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
4-0. Next, Commissioners' reports and comments. Vice President Baker.
I'd just like to say good morning to everyone, and I have nothing to report on. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kiefer.
Welcome, everyone. Maybe just a reminder that as school starts back up here, school buses will be running once again, and just a reminder for everyone, a couple extra minutes before you leave for work. Be patient if you're behind a school bus as youngsters get on and off, and just be on the lookout for school buses soon. Good luck to every child in school and teacher, staff member as the school year starts back up. That's all.
Is that August 29th, something like that? Is that the exact?
You know, I don't know the
It's coming
exact
soon,
date,
though.
but soon.
Yeah,
Right.
29th,
I think it is
believe.
the 29th.
29th. All right, Commissioner, anything else?
That's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Burkett?
Good morning, everybody. Today I am heading down to Ocean City for the Summer Mako Conference, and that's all my comments for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Wagner?
Good morning. Just my thoughts and prayers out to Dave Hayes' father and his family, and that's it for me today.
Great. Thank you. Just a few things. 10 years ago this month, PIA, the Pittsburgh Institute of Aeronautics, had its first graduating class at the terminal. That's sort of a milestone, and now we're here, they're growing, going to build a second classroom, received a federal grant to do that. So again, just want to recognize that milestone for PIA. Again, my personal condolences to the family of Dave Hayes for the passing of his father. And recently, the news last week at Hagerstown Community College did receive a $5.8 million workforce training grant, which was supported by the county commissioners, who did a great job, I believe, in supporting that with $1.5 million to help secure that. So good news all around for that. That concludes my comments. Is there any staff comments in the audience? If not, I'll go to Krista.
I do. I have two boards. I have the Police Accountability Board requesting that you accept the recommendation to appoint Ronald Humble and, I'm sorry, what was the other girl's name? Why don't I have that on here? Amber Smart, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
Each to serve one-year terms on the Police Accountability Board. This is not a paid board.
And they were the ones that were submitted by municipalities, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
I'd motion to approve.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Krista, anything else?
I do. I have the Adult Public Guardianship Review Board requesting you accept the recommendation to reappoint Diane Lewis to serve a third three-year term as a local nonprofit representative from August 1 through July 31st, 2025. And upon her approval, I'm also requesting a waiver to the two-term limit as outlined in the Boards and County Commission Policy PR22. This is not a paid board.
Commissioners, thoughts, comments, motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Krista, if I may ask one question about the Police Accountability Board. I believe one individual was recommended by each Boonesboro and Smithsburg, but could you just clarify, we didn't receive responses from the other two municipalities that have police departments?
Correct. We have received no responses from the town of Hancock and the town of The city of Hagerstown, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay, thank you, good point to mention. Krista, anything else?
No, sir, that's all.
County Administrator?
Good morning, President Klein. Good morning, Commissioners. Just a few things. I, too, want to pass on my condolences to Dave Hayes and his family on the passing of Dave's father. The County Commissioners will not meet next week, so the next County Commissioner meeting is Tuesday, August 30th. And I will, along with several other staff members, will be heading down to Mako tomorrow. So we'll be spending a few days down there to interact with some of our colleagues from the other counties, so we're looking forward to that. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other staff comments, we'll begin with citizens' participation. Is there any citizens here who'd like to participate? First row, second row, Mr. Williams, anybody? If not, or if so, please come forward. All right, seeing none, thank you all very much. Next on the agenda would be the town of Funkstown. Folks, please come forward, introduce yourselves in the matter.
Good morning. Paul Crampton, Mayor of Town of Funkstown.
Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here on behalf of the people of the Town of Funkstown, basically asking for forgiveness of the $200,000. Actually, it was $211,000. The town is going to put up the exact difference between the $200,000 and the $211,000. Basically, this happened through the process where we felt that the whole loan was going to be forgiven back when we had a prior commitment, and then we found out that a small piece of it was not included, which actually will work out to the benefit of the town and the residents of Washington County, which would include the barn, and there was a small house on that property, which if we left it under the prior funding, we would not be allowed to do anything with that. So the town's commitment to revitalize the barn in that area to make it into a Civil War museum and not into a event center. We want to keep it as a museum where we can actually have things portrayed in that. So we're going to take the money that we would have had to pay you and do the engineering studies, the structural studies and so forth to pay for that, in hopes in the future of looking at additional POS money to do the refurbishment of that area.
So basically, that land is going to be, you're going to retain, if we forgive it, and you're going to eventually have a museum there.
Yeah, that's exactly the Town of Funkstown's plan.
Commissioners, any other thoughts, comments? Go ahead,
Can I just say,
John.
yeah, so I think you just said it. So the money that you would have paid the county, you're going to use to
We're going to take that
barn.
same money and we're going to budget into our budget to do the, I guess, all the pre-planning work, the structural work that has to be done in order to proceed with, putting that barn back into the condition that it once was.
Okay.
Actually better, so we can have a museum there.
Okay, great. And you mentioned, because I think the balance is 211 now, I believe. I'm looking back at Kelsey, but I think that's what it is. So are you asking for forgiveness of the entire balance? Or?
No, just the $200,000, and the town will then cut a check for the remainder.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure. The numbers people tell me you got to make sure all that stuff's right.
Yeah, no, that's
Lawyer
correct.
in me doesn't really need to get
Yeah,
that.
we're going to pay the difference.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
Commissioners, thoughts, comments?
No, I think it's a good thing that Funkstown does a good job with Civil War activities. I think it's a good thing there to be another museum. I'm sort of a Civil War buff myself. So motion to approve.
So second,
Second.
any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Commissioners, thank you very much. And I must say one other thing before I leave. Andrew Eshman and POS has been a great help to the town of Funkstown, so I want to reach out and thank him for all of his help in the last trailer park edition, which turned out very well. So thank you all very much for all your support.
Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is our public hearing program open space property acquisition. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony concerning the matter. The procedure is as follows. We will first have staff introduce the matter, after which the hearing will be open for public comment and testimony. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to testify. After everyone who wishes to speak has done so, the hearing will close. The commissioners may then discuss the issue and take any action they deem appropriate, including adoption or rejection of the proposal, or they may take the issue under advisement and deliberate at a later date. Mr. Moser, Mr. Eisman, would you please come forward?
President Klein, go ahead.
Go ahead.
County Attorney's not here today, so I guess
Okay.
it's not scheduled till 10:30, so
Oh, my mistake.
we're a little ahead already.
Yeah, we are ahead. Thank you
I don't
for that
anticipate there'll be a
reminder.
lot of comments here, but I think we probably should wait a little while if you want to move
All
on.
right, let's go to a brief recess.
I didn't want to interrupt you right
No, no, I'm glad you did. I
You were doing a good job reading that,
Yeah.
but
We
All right.
can do the aviation then.
we can do,
The proclamation.
we can,
Could we
is
go
everybody
ahead
here?
and
We
move-
can do the aviation if you want to go ahead. and do it.
Commissioners, you okay with doing the aviation ahead of schedule? Okay. All right, next in will be the Aviation Museum Award. Please announce the topic and your guest.
Good morning, Commissioners. Andrew Eshelman, Director of Public Works.
John Seaburn, President, Hagerstown Aviation Museum.
Karen Hemingway, Event Coordinator, Hagerstown Aviation Museum.
We're here to recognize that this week on August 19th is National Aviation Day. That's been celebrated since 1939 on Orville Wright's birthday. So I wanted to take the opportunity to invite the Hagerstown Aviation Museum to come share how they're preserving local aviation history, talk maybe a little bit about their plans for the permanent museum and some upcoming things that they have as well as far as how they're engaging the community in aviation events.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, many of you may have ancestors who worked at Fairchild years ago, and you know that, I mean, basically tens of thousands of people had worked in the aviation industry here in Hagerstown. This is going to be the 1-minute history. 1916, 13 years after the Wright brothers flight, the first airplane was built in Hagerstown by Giuseppe Blanca. That moved into the 1920s. We had Crider Reesner who started building aircraft. Sherman Fairchild came to town in 1930 and built the first factory up here on Pennsylvania Avenue. It became known as Fairchild Plant 1. Through the 1930s, they built a series of small single-engine aircraft for flight training and sightseeing, those kind of things. 1939, World War II is on the horizon. Fairchild designs a primary trainer, a 2-seat open cockpit primary trainer that became the PT-19. During the war, they expanded, they built a new factory out at the airport, which became Fairchild Plant 2. They built over 7,000 PT-19s over that time during World War II. Also during the war, they had a secret program called just called the cargo aircraft, which became the C-82 flying boxcar. From that, after World War II, the C-82s were involved in like the Berlin airlift, things like that. The C-119 came along, upgraded version of the C-82. After that was the C-123, which ended up being used quite a bit during the Vietnam War, short takeoff and landing cargo plane. The F-27, later on down the line was the Fairchild A-10, and that was the final aircraft built at Fairchild. Fairchild closed the doors in 1984, and that was basically the end of Fairchild and airplane manufacturing. After that, there was Rohr Industries and a few others who were doing bonding of parts at the bonding plant. And it moves up through today with Sierra Nevada, so they're kind of our Fairchild of today in a sense. So that's a short history. So by 1995, there was an air show in Hagerstown. We had an exhibit set up with some photos and models and things, and there was no museum yet. But over that weekend, everybody thought that was the museum, this little T-hanger display. That's where the idea was born for the museum. We formed a board. I had people like Dick Henson, Don Bowman, John Watersdorf, Armin Teblow Jr., who's the son of the designer of many of the Fairchild planes. And so we started to raise money and try to generate interest, but we had nothing to put in the museum at that time. We were just trying to build a building. So 25 years later, we have 23 historic Fairchild aircraft, all built here in Hagerstown. And the day came, well, we've tried about 20 different concepts to get a home for the museum. always hoping that we could be in the old Fairchild hangars. We thought that would be the most appropriate place. Finally, Top Flight gets new owners, Michael Langer and Ellie, the New Heights folks. They're very interested in what we're trying to do, so this is a very long story short, they offered to sell us the dome hangar. There's a shop building out back and about 7 acres of ramp space to hold outdoor events and airplanes. So as of yesterday, we have a draft purchase agreement to buy those properties. And this is mainly due to Governor Hogan coming to visit back in February. Some of our local folks who invited him to come take a look at the museum. He came, was all excited about it, and we ended up with a $5 million grant. So that was amazing for us. We'd always, it was way beyond our expectations, but it did allow us to purchase, we're calling it like phase 1. We would still like to get the large, what they call executive hangar next to it, but that may be phase 2 down the road, depending on how all that works out. So that's the short story. So we're working now we've been fixing up the building for 2 years. The dome hangar was built in 1943. It's all built out of wood. So it's the building itself is very historic. And then it finally has a home for all the smaller planes are inside, large ones are sitting out back. So that's the short story. And I'd like to hand it over to Karen to talk about our events.
So right now, while we aren't open on a daily basis to the public, we are open for special events. And our special events will run from April to October, obviously when the weather is a little bit more palatable. So some of our special events are a monthly open air plane day where the local community can come out and really take a look at these aircraft that were built here and just are such a strong history here in Hagerstown. Another goal is to work with our homeschool groups and our public schools to bring the kids out and really have them take a look and see what sort of careers are available in aviation, and that would be a partnership and relationship with PIA, AOPA, and the airport and surrounding businesses. So while, again, we're not open to the public on a regular basis, we have been working with some small homeschool groups and some, I believe it was Frederick High School, to come out and just take a look around in partnership with PIA. So that's been working really well. We do have 2 open air plane days left in the year. This Saturday, August 20th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., where you can come out and take a look inside and inside these aircraft and inside the dome hangar, which is a feat unto itself, and really just inspirational to what can be done in aviation. And then our largest event is coming up in September. That's on September 10th. That's our Wings and Wheels Expo. And there at Wings and Wheels, it's everything from antique cars to more display aircraft, Sierra Nevada. We have semi-trucks, antique tractors, all sorts of stuff. And that is our largest fundraising event for the year. It's really important to us because that's how we're going to sustain ourselves throughout the next year. So $5 requested donation at the gate. It's really just a fantastic event. Last year we had over 5,000 attendees, and we're looking to beat that record this year.
Questions?
You know, when you guys, when I go back a little ways with you, John, not terribly far, on several years, I've seen it start this big, and then all of a sudden the Wings and Wheels, you just said 5,000, you know. It just keeps growing. And it's really a wonderful place to go and see some of the local history and just see airplanes. And you also, you work in conjunction with Young Eagles, right?
Right.
So you can, you know, that's an opportunity for some children to get into aviation and get a plane ride. I don't know all the particulars. I know you sign up and you got numerous pilots that'll do that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I just think it's you know, and the day Hogan came was a big deal, and that probably did catapult you somewhat. But I just think it's a wonderful opportunity. And Wings and Wheels is good. It's fun to go to. So, yeah, I commend you guys on what you've done in this short period of time. Because, you were from a piece of asphalt somewhere now to a hangar and 7 acres of ramp, and it's exciting that you're going to have a purchase agreement possibly with Mr. Langer.
Yeah, the other part of this is as we get open and all that, we're talking about like an aviation education campus on the airport. Sort of like the Ag Center, Agriculture Education Center, but utilizing the airport, the museum, PIA, Sierra Nevada, the EAA with the Young Eagles. It just seems like a good fit for everybody, and the great need now for pilots and mechanics and all that. That's a part of what role we could play, is inspiring young people to look at careers in aviation and transportation. So that's one of our goals down the road. I think we're already kind of doing that, but actually haven't organized effort then.
It is an awful, wonderful time in history now for somebody young that wants to get in aviation, because pilots all across the board, there's a tremendous shortage, and you probably could use a couple to do your PT-19 here before long.
Right.
So.
I appreciate everything you've done to work towards your museum. We just heard the presenter before you talked about a little bit about Washington County's history with the Civil War. You came and talked about a little bit of our history with World War II and a little bit after that. We have so many museums, so much history here in Washington County, and some of our museums can fit into small spaces, but when you have airplanes, you need big spaces for those. So I know that's a big undertaking, and as Commissioner Wagner said, it can appeal to a lot of people if you're a gearhead, if you enjoy history, if you enjoy aviation, the mechanic side of airplanes, aircraft, something for everybody, pretty much. So good luck with your endeavor. That was exciting to hear about.
Thank you.
And the Wings and Wheels Expo, I've been a couple times, and that brings out a lot of people. I was there on one day. We had a downpour, but you guys were still there, and people were enjoying it nonetheless.
Thank you.
You mentioned that you get homeschoolers in Frederick County. Does Washington County schools take advantage of the?
It's difficult to sort of fling wide the doors when you're not open on a daily basis, and so we haven't really yet tapped into the Washington County schools. Really what happened with Frederick County schools was they were coming to PIA for a tour, and PIA was a little worried that they wouldn't have enough to sort of occupy for that tour. So they came over and they had lunch and they toured sort of what we had in the museum, and it worked really, really well. It was a great team effort and partnership, and the kids were fantastically happy with the results. So it was a really good partnership. And moving into the future, yes, absolutely, we'll be tapping into Washington County and working with AOPA, hopefully through, going through their curriculum. So yeah, we look forward to having a really great program for aviation here in Washington County.
So I'll just end on, I think we all agree that's a good opportunity. I've reached out to WCPS about that. There are high school aviation programs, and as she mentioned, there's a curriculum for that, so we'll just have to see where that takes. But I think we all agree on this side, there's certainly an opportunity there.
Yeah. One more comment. On a sad note, you had the passing of Mary Cleaver, who was the Rosie the Riveter symbol for that airport during Fairchild's and the construction of many of those planes. So want to make sure we didn't forget to mention her name, because she's kind of an icon for your museum. With no more comments about a flag for a presentation. On behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, we'd like to present this proclamation for National Aviation Day. Whereas in 1939, President Roosevelt established Aviation Day by presidential proclamation designating the anniversary of Orville Wright's birthday, August 19th, for this observance. And whereas the Hagerstown Aviation Museum is dedicated to preserving and presenting the over 100-year aviation history of Washington County. And whereas many families in the region have a connection to Washington County's aviation heritage. Over 50,000 people have worked at the Washington County building, over 10,000 aircraft since 1916. And whereas over the past 25 years, the museum has grown from a concept to a collection of over 23 historic aircraft and the world's largest collection of historic aircraft built in Washington County. Now therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Maryland, hereby recognize Friday, August 19, 2022 as National Aviation Day in Washington County, and urge all citizens to participate in activities that further stimulate interest in aviation. Congratulations on behalf of the commissioners. Thank you, sir.
Hurrah, hurrah.
Now, would you join the commissioners up front for a photograph of our board with you? You guys take the center. Yeah, right here. That's a good job. That's good.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So good to see you. Great to see you again. I haven't met you yet. Sorry, I'll come on the other side. It's good to see you. Oh, yeah.
And since it's 10:29, we'll return to the public hearing. Commissioners. Next on the agenda is a public hearing concerning a potential acquisition of real property. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony concerning the matter. The procedure is as follows. We will first have staff introduce the matter, after which the hearing will be open for public comment and testimony. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to testify. After everyone who wishes to speak has done so, the hearing will close. The commissioners may then discuss the issue and take any action they deem appropriate, including adoption or rejection of the proposal, or they may take the issue under advisement and deliberate at a later date. Mr. Moser, Mr. Eschman, would you please introduce yourselves in the matter?
Good morning, Commissioners. Todd Moser, Real Property Administrator. Andrew Ashelman, Director of Public Works. This is a public hearing to hear testimony regarding the purchase of vacant land for parkland acquisition adjacent to Dobbs Woods, located off of Downsville Pike in Hagerstown, Maryland, consisting of 2.81 acres. The option agreement has been executed for the property listed above, 2.181 acres. Acquisition cost $425,000. The offer is based on 2 appraisals completed in May of 2022. The acquisition will be funded through program open space and will include preservation of the existing walking trail and conservation of a natural environment and habitat near an urban setting. Additional future uses include inclusion of a disc golf course. The acquisition was listed in FY23 program open space annual program for $425,000, and funds are available in the CIP Parkland Acquisition Rec 033 account.
Commissioners, comments, thoughts?
I was just curious on the price. I mean, what was that zone? Why was it, it seemed like, and I don't know, I didn't look into it.
It's in the city, it's zoned professional office mixed, so
So-
that's the primary driver.
I'll give you the complete background on that. Before we even pursued contacting the owner, Andrew had asked me for an estimate of what I thought this would cost. I came up with $350,000 to $425,000. The first appraisal came back at $380,000, so I was really comfortable with that number. The second appraisal came back at $750,000. I did not agree with that. I did not believe it was accurate.
ethically, I have to be careful, but I asked them to take a second look and gave them several reasons. They did adjust it to 650. I still don't think that's accurate. Luckily, the owner was really willing to work with us and did not, go after that, the highest appraisal, and we agreed to the 425,000, which I do believe, considering the two appraisals, is a fair compensation for the parcel.
Commissioners? Okay, we will now open the public hearing for public comment. Anyone wishing to testify, please come forward, give your name and address, and tell us what you would like to know. Is there anyone here? Seeing none, do the commissioners have any questions? Hearing none, the public hearing is now concluded. Commissioners, thoughts, comments, or what action would you like to take?
Yes, I just have a curious question. On the reimbursement through Project Open Space, what type of a timeline are we expecting to be reimbursed?
So what would happen after this would be I would send in the application. So once the application is received, Todd would be able to move forward with closing. Concurrent to all that, it normally takes 2 to 3 months for the Maryland Board of Public Works to actually approve it, which would be a requirement for us to be reimbursed. Normally a month or 2 of paperwork for that request to go back in and receive reimbursement. So Todd, where were you looking at for a closing date?
Middle September closing date I was hoping for. And
So-
this process began back in January.
So probably by the end of the calendar year, we would be reimbursed. So the county does front the money and then we submit all of our supporting information to be fully reimbursed.
So could you just remind me maybe not remind me, share with me, what's the long-term use for this property? I know it's contiguous to Dobbs Woods, but will it be trails? Will it be another entrance? What will the topography of the land allow?
Yeah, I mean, what you don't see on there is there's actually a hill, a crest that kind of runs down through the middle of the property. It's not well marked currently where the property boundary is between the current park and that parcel, so there actually is an existing walking trail that's already on the parcel. So we would look to keep that. And then if you look in our capital plan, we do have plans for a 9-hole or 18, depending on how you set up the baskets, for a disc golf course, which if you've been out to Regional Park, we have another course out there. So it kind of mixes the walking aspect with the outdoors, and so we could locate a basket or 2 on that course in that property.
Were there other properties under consideration for acquisition other than just this one?
I think, annually, a certain amount of our program open space money, at least 25%, has to go towards acquisitions. And so initially, we didn't receive any acquisition requests from the municipalities. So there's an opportunity this year for some of that funding to go towards here. So it was kind of always eyed as a expansion opportunity. And so this year, the money is there and available for us to take advantage of.
So how did this come to our doorstep? Did we approach the owners, or were they approaching us?
Mutual, and he had owned it for a while. Todd can talk about maybe some of his plans and whether or not he was going to develop it or not.
Andrew gave me 2 different properties to look at for this year, and I was unable to contact another property owner. So that's how we came to this.
Okay.
Commissioners, any thoughts, action taken today?
I would be okay moving forward without, we didn't have anyone from the public here speaking in opposition, so I would.
Yeah, I think I'm comfortable with it. I'm okay with it.
Okay, move to approve the options. We need to vote on that. So motion
Move to
to approve the option.
Motion to approve,
Or second?
Could I read the recommended motion? I just want to make sure the amount's a little different than what I.
We don't do an ordinance first?
Go ahead first. There is a move to approve the option is what it says in there. So we'll
So move to approve the option agreement for full take fee simple property acquisition for the property listed below, and to approve ordinances approving said purchase, and to increase the program open space grant reimbursement eligible amount up to $435,000. Of course, that includes the title work and the appraisals. And to authorize the execution of necessary documentation to finalize the acquisition.
And we approve this thing and it comes back for another vote or anything at all to be done. I'm referring to his question. Okay.
There is an ordinance attached already, right?
Yes, okay. So I have a first and a second, and the motion's been clarified. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is application for zoning map amendment. Mr. Allen, please come forward, introduce yourself and the matter.
Good morning, Commissioners. Travis Allen, Comprehensive Planner with the Department of Planning and Zoning. What we have here this morning is a request to partially terminate an existing rural business zoning district at 16333 Mount Tabor Road in Hagerstown. The applicant would be looking to remove 2.64 acres out of the 47.15 acre parcel to enable them to subdivide these 3 lots and pursue single-family homes, which would be sold off to individual owners. The current condition of this property is a little bit unusual in that there is actually already 3 manufactured homes sitting on these lots that were put there in 1985 before the rural business zoning was actually applied to the property. But once the rural business zoning was applied to the property, technically residential uses were no longer allowed. So the partial removal of this zoning would allow them again to subdivide and turn these into single-family homes, which they aren't able to do right now. The requirements for the partial removal of a RB zoning district are pretty straightforward. They just have to provide a written request and then a detailed drawing showing where the remaining RB zoning district would be located if the removal was to be approved. They did provide both of those documents to our office. I believe they're included in your agenda packet for your review. Staff, in looking at this request, doesn't see any issues that would affect the neighborhood. In the aftermath of this partial removal, you'd just be looking at another minor subdivision within the rural area. So there should not be any major neighborhood effects were this to be approved by the commissioners. So again, the request is to partially terminate 2.64 acres of the existing rural business zoning district.
So in summary, somebody owns 2.64 acres, it has 3 mobile homes on it, that it's not really in a rural business zoning, and they want to down zone to residential, and they could leave the 3 mobiles still there?
Yeah, those are an existing non-conforming use that's permitted, but, you know, again, anything beyond what is there, single-family homes, for example, would not be permitted. So they're kind of stuck where they're at now. And again, they want to sell these lots off individually to different owners, so somebody could then therefore pursue a different housing type with this partial.
And the planning commission was unanimous on this, right?
Yes, correct. The planning commission did recommend approval at their monthly meeting.
And the homes were there in 1985?
Yeah, I'm not sure of all the circumstances that surrounded exactly what occurred, but they did actually have planning commission approval for subdivision of these 3 lots previously. Why they did not go forward with actually recording the lots and land records, I can't speak to it, but essentially they kind of were already in the pipeline to be subdivided and developed, but they just never followed through, so this would be kind of fulfilling what they had intended in the past.
I'd motion to approve.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda, Mr. Albert, 24-hour shifts for emergency communications. Please come forward and introduce yourselves.
I'm Brian Albert, Assistant Director of the Washington County Emergency Communications Center.
And Kelly Fisher, Operations Manager at the Communications Center.
Basically, we're coming for approval of the commissioners. You have the ARF there in front of you. It would be to use the 24-hour work shifts for the ECC maintaining the ability for the 12-hour shifts for the employees that want those. Back in February, we came before you to ask to do a trial period to see if this would work and it was acceptable for the employees. And during this trial period, you know, we had a few bugs here and there that we had to work out of it, but for the most part, the employees like them. We did do a survey that went out through PR, and it was an anonymous survey. Out of the 39 responses, 32 people voted to say, yes, we'd like to stay with the 24-hour shifts. And they gave a plethora of reasons why they would like to. You know, they have better sleep for the night shift people that when their days off and, you know, more time with their families. So 7 people voted no for the 24-hour shifts. So it was 83% of the staff that took the survey. We had, I think, 4 or 5 people that didn't take the survey for some reason. So some of the things we found during this is, you know, we've had an increase already of our part-time applications. We have an opening out. We've had 12 applications for part-time employment, and out of those 12, I think half of those are fully certified people. So we wouldn't have any training, and we assume, we don't know this for sure, that those people are trying to put in part-time thinking we're going to go to the 24-hour shifts and then they'll have their foot in the door to become full-time employees. And we currently have 5 full-time openings, and we're going to advertise them as soon as we can get an approval for the 24-hour shifts. And if Kelly has anything to add, we'll open it up to questions for anything.
I did. See, I read your thing you sent out this morning, and I guess the biggest concerns I saw was, and it probably falls back to your openings, your 5 openings and staff. The biggest concerns I saw, so everybody seemed to like that in most cases, 24-hour. They were complaining because they had to work 18 hours straight before they got a break. Well, is that going to be fixed or?
Yes. So part of that, the reason, now when they say they work 18 hours straight, so they'll get a 6-hour rest period during the 24-hour shift.
Right.
Now, if we need them, when they're in the building, we can call them back, which during a severe storm a few weeks ago, we did that exact thing and was able to upstaff the center. So when they say the 18-hour shift, so they have a 6-hour rest period, we still give them an hour break, at least, at some point. And it's not like they're stuck at one place for 18 hours. I mean, they can go out to the bathroom, they go out to grab their food. If they request it, they get a break. Initially, we looked at possibly a 2-hour break during that 18-hour period, but with the staffing levels that we currently have, we couldn't, you know, we have to maintain some type of, you know, minimum manpower in the room, so we couldn't give those. When we get to full staffing, it shouldn't be an issue, and like I say, it doesn't happen a lot, but it can happen.
It seemed like that was a big complaint in
Right.
staffing. So is the 5 openings you were talking about, are they budgeted openings or?
Yes, they're budgeted openings.
Why is there a delay then? I mean, I'm just curious.
We were kind of holding off to see if we can get approval of the 24-hour shifts before we advertise, because we think we'll attract fully trained people.
Okay.
And then it'll be quicker time when we get them in the door through the county, we can get them on the floor quicker because they're already trained.
So
They would just have to learn our CAD and our radio, so they wouldn't have all the training that currently takes place.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a delay. We decided to do that to go ahead and we could advertise them as 24-hour shifts. So it wasn't a delay in any of the process. It was just come in here and get
Right.
approval. And as Brian said,
Correct.
you know, there's some individuals that still want to do a 12-hour shift, and we're still going to accommodate those people. We're going to continue to work on this and build on this. And I think the union is in favor of this, right? And
Yes.
they'll eventually have to be a
I just spoke with Carol Braun this morning. He was in Cumberland. He didn't know if he would make it here in time. The union's on board with this. The only thing that would have to happen if the Board of County Commissioners approves it today is we would need a vote from the union, and we'd also have to do an addendum to accommodate the 24-hour shifts on the union contract currently.
Brian and Kelly, just a question about the 12-hour shifts that will remain. Are new hires expected to work the 24-hour shift, or they'll have the option either?
They will have the option.
Okay.
Yeah, they would have the option coming in.
So I guess maybe that answers the second question for me. As those 7 employees to continue on with the 12-hour shift, as they move on, retire, would they be replaced with 12-hour shift? Or-
It would be up to the person.
Okay. And you can make
Right
it
now, we're
work?
just
can
offering.
accommodate.
Yeah, we can accommodate. We don't have to fill, if a 12-hour person retires, we don't have to fill that 12-hour shift.
Okay.
Commissioner Kiefer, currently, we only have 4 people that are on 12-hour shifts.
Okay.
We don't, the disparity in the survey was a little bit off because 7 people voted against it, but we've offered it the entire time during the trial period. If they didn't like it or it wasn't accommodating to their schedules for the 24s, that they could move back to 12-hour shifts at any time. And we did that with 1 employee,
Okay.
so.
And I'm assuming we would talk, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you go ahead.
I'm assuming that, obviously, that survey was anonymous, so we don't know who
Yes.
they are. But I'm assuming you're going to talk to each individual employee and see what they want to do, a 24 or 12-hour shift.
Right. In fact, I put out an email after the survey. If anybody's unhappy or doesn't want to be on a 24-hour shift, come to us immediately and we'll put you back on 12s.
Okay, great.
And that's how it'll work. If someone's on 24, they decide that they would rather be on 12, you're going to switch them
Yeah,
and vice versa.
we don't want to make that something that's just on a whim, because it does affect payroll and some different things. So we probably get back to the first of the year. We usually did shift bids every year, so they would bid for their shifts. So this would be no different. They'd still bid for their shifts, so they'd be able to bid 12s or 24s, and then we would expect them, other than, a medical reason or something, that they would stay on that shift for a year long.
One more question. I'm in favor. I'm just answering complaints that you shouldn't have sent that out this morning because I read it actually.
Yeah.
I saw all the complaints. It was equipment. They say, what's the plans for, it sounded like it was pretty shabby. Got napkins holding things up and.
Well, some of those things have been fixed. We are in the process of, so the numbers board is the 911 board, the statewide board, is a large funding source for us at the 911 center. Basically, they'll pay for anything that's not bricks or mortar. So we're in the process of working with mission critical partners and trying to get a contract with them to do, oversee the contract to rebuild that room. So that would be, they won't pay for new carpet or new HVAC, which we have that currently out to bid. And so we're looking at rebuilding that room with all new furniture, all new computers, new monitors, So it is in the works. It's a long process to get through.
So what's the time frame for all of that in your estimation?
I'd say 18 months at least, because it's a pretty large project. Now, we do have probably getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but we have a CIP project that starts, I think, next July, and that's to build out this center where we're currently at. So that'd be, it would add on to our building where we're at, but it would expand our center, and it'd be all new equipment and obviously, building too.
Any commissioners' thoughts, comments, and request for a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have first and second. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Next up, bid award. Contract, is Brandy here or Les or?
Rick's here.
And Dave Mason's here. Yeah, okay.
Brandy's under the weather. I'll be doing a recommendation for. Morning, Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Dave Mason, Deputy Director, Solid Waste.
Subject before you is bid award PUR 1559, contract service at transfer stations on site at 40 West Landfill. Move toward the contract services at the transfer stations and on site at 40 West Landfill to responsible bidder, Panhandle Dumpsters LLC of Martinsburg, West Virginia, based on a total sum bid for transfer stations locations 1 through 5, at $586,150, plus alternate 1 for cardboard transports at 40 West at $8,800, for a total lump sum bid of $594,950. Procurement is contingent upon the company being registered and providing proof of being in good standing with the Department of Assessment and Taxation. As you can see in the ARF, as when the bid was advertised, when they were received, the number of individuals who downloaded the bids, how they were advertised on the local newspaper and the media. It's a 2-year contract with a 1-year option to renew, in which county does not guarantee any maximum number of transports from each location. Any request the bidder makes can be rejected by the county. Shows funds are budgeted in the department's budget for the services, and you have the bid matrix that shows the tabulation of the bidders who submitted proposals.
Motion to approve.
Second.
The first and second, is there any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Next,
Curry.
please introduce yourselves and then new matter. Thank you, sir.
Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Deputy Director Solid Waste.
Subject is bid award PUR 1560, recycling drop-off services. Recommended motion move to award the contract for recycling drop-off services under option 1 for hauling of single-stream recyclables to the responsible bidder, BFI, doing business as Republic Services of Hagerstown, Maryland, for a total sum of $116,133.30, and to award under option 2 for the processing of single-stream recyclables to Apple Valley Waste, Kearneysville, West Virginia, for year 1 of $44,200, year 2 of $50,830, and year 3 of $55,910.40, for a total sum bid of $150,940.40, and to award under alternate 1 to BFI, doing business as Republic Service of Hagerstown, year 1 of $41,600, year 2 of $43,680, and year 3 of $45,864, for a total sum bid of $131,144. As you can see in the ARF, as when the bid was advertised and when the bids were accepted, how they were advertised on local media and the various websites, number of bids received, 1-year contract with 2 options to renew, the hauling of recyclables, cardboard, removing, marketing the recyclables. 90 days prior to the expiration of the contract, the bidder needs to submit a request to renew. And funds are budgeted in the FY23 proposed budget, and there is a bid tabulation also for your review.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. 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 Thank you very much. Next up, contract bid award, professional court. Whoops, which one? Whoops, roof membrane, I'm sorry, I'm one ahead. Bid award would be Rick Curry and Andrew, thank you.
Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Andrew Eshelman, Director of Public Works.
Subject is bid award PUR 1557, roof membrane replacement, IKOA. Recommended motion move to award the bid for the roof membrane replacement at 145 IKOA to the responsible bidder, Bonded Applicators Incorporated of Waynesboro, Pennsylvania, who submitted the lowest total sum bid amount of $1,094,544, and the procurement is contingent upon agreement of the county attorney's office. You see as the bid was advertised, where it was advertised in various medias, websites, number of individuals who attended the pre-conference, teleconference, and there's a mistake in the reported brief. It says that the project is to be completed in 45 days. That should be 150 days. And the number of individuals who downloaded the bid document, basically, they're going to take off the existing roof because of water infiltration and put on a new TPO roof, 25-year warranty. As mentioned, there's a 150 calendar day project, and there are liquidated damages in the amount of $250 for every day that the project is not completed. As you can see, there are funds budgeted in the CIP account. And you have the bid tabulation showing the bidders who submitted. Just want to mention that because of the long lead time of materials, that it could possibly extend the project beyond 150 days.
Yes, the 150 days is more or less the construction time. It's built into the contract to allow for lead time in certain materials, which can be months at this stage right now for insulation and the roofing membrane.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now the construction bid award. Mr. Hobbs, please come forward, introduce yourself and the matter.
Good morning. Scott Hobbs, Director of Engineering. I'm here to recommend the board conditionally award the Professional Boulevard Phase 2 contract to the lowest responsible bidder, Concrete General Incorporated of Gaithersburg, Maryland, in the amount of $6,617,402.10 for the base bid plus add alternate, which includes a contribution from the City of Hagerstown for the widening of Professional Court from Professional Boulevard Bridge to Eastern Boulevard. Conditional award is based on receiving concurrence and award from the State Highway Administration. The project was advertised in the Herald Mail, on the county's website, and the State of Maryland's website, Email Marketplace Advantage. 3 bids were received and opened on July 27th, 2022. The bids have been evaluated and the low bid is in order. The engineer's estimate for the work was $6,100,000, with the estimates for the base bid estimate, which was the county work limits of $3.2 million, and the city's add alternate estimate inside of the work was $2.9 million. The Professional Boulevard Phase 2 project involves final grading, stormwater management, and paving within the county work limits on the southeast side of the bridge, and widening of Professional Court within the city limits of the bridge to Eastern Boulevard. Professional Boulevard benefits include reducing congestion and emergency response times, as well as enhancing the transportation networks in the area. This contract, managed by the county, includes an add alternate for the city improvements. The mayor and council approved an add alternate in a motion on August 9th. The project is recommended for award based on the base bid plus add alternate. The project includes 350 consecutive day calendar day contract with an anticipated notice to proceed in October 2022 and a completion in the fall of 23. Bid documents also include liquidated damages in the amount of $500 per calendar day for work beyond the completion date. The Professional Boulevard project is a budgeted CIP using multiple funding sources and also including state aid funds, ARC funding, city contribution, and local funds. Any questions?
Commissioners, thoughts, comments?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Vote, thank you very much.
Thank you. But if you just continue to keep the commissioners updated on, I know they get a lot of questions about Professional Boulevard and that. As we move through that process, you do a good job of keeping us up to date, but just continue to do that. So.
Yes, and we'll work with PR on announcements when the work is getting started. As we mentioned, there's long lead times in items, so we'll start with submittals from the contractors, and then we'll keep aware of what the end dates are. And there's also professional future phases from Yale Drive to Rosewood Village, and that's upcoming here in the future, so we'll keep everyone informed. On the website, we have some information about professional and other projects we have ongoing.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, next up, position grade change request. Mr. Eishelman, Mr. Bradshaw, please come forward, introduce yourself and the topic.
Good morning, Andrew Eshelman, Director of Public Works.
Mark Bradshaw, Director of Environmental Management.
Kevin around
We're here seeking a recommended motion for a position grade change for the transit maintenance worker and Mark's utility worker 2 positions from a grade 6 to a grade 7. The transit department maintenance worker and the environmental management utility worker 2 positions are currently grade 6 positions, and that comes within a starting annual salary of $30,722. And with a recommended change, we go to $33,197. Similar full-time maintenance worker positions that also require the possession of a Class B commercial driver's license are grade 7 or higher. Attracting and keeping qualified people in these positions have been challenging. The applicants either do not have a commercial driver's license, or if they do, they leave for similar but higher grade and paying jobs. The possession of the Class B commercial driver's license is necessary in the case for the transit maintenance worker to shuttle buses, and for the utility worker, I believe it's to drive dump truck. So as a condition, the employees performing the job that do not have their Class B CDL would remain paid at a grade 6 level, and upon obtaining their CDL would upgrade to the same step on a grade 7. As far as the transit maintenance worker position, there's no one currently in this position. We've been unable to fill it. Mark, what's your status?
The utility worker, we have 2 of those positions. One gentleman just started yesterday. He does not have his CDL, so we will have to send him to the class, so he would remain as a 6. And the other one, is vacancy is being advertised right now.
Are there any questions?
So basically, you're saying we're not paying enough to attract anybody to fill these positions, and we're giving an incentive.
Yes, more or less, just trying to keep it on par. And that being said, it's still a challenge to hire the people that are the grade 7, so it's not necessarily a solution, but I think the last one, I believe, went from the utility worker position over to within highway, so I'm happy to have him over here. It doesn't do Mark any favors either.
He worked for us for 3 weeks before he transferred out.
What happens when you send them to get a CDL? Is there some kind of if we pay for that and send them to school, is there some kind of a commitment they have to do, or can they get their CDLs and walk away?
Currently, there is not a commitment, but we are trying to work with HR, particularly on the Class A's, because they are a lot more challenging to get, and the school is more expensive and longer.
Right.
So right now, the answer is no.
Right, the answer is no, but as Mark said, staff is looking at that because we recognize that's an issue that we need to address, so.
That's a great question. If we could have, maybe even worthy of a topic of its own, any kind of training that might be transferable to another county, maybe even a business, any kind of education or schooling. As you said, Commissioner Wagner, we see many times, and I'm sure other employers may see that too, but many times employers put some kind of work requirement, number of years of service or tied to that. And I know you're working on it, like you said, but I'd like to have that as a larger topic.
I know, we talked about this because the tuition reimbursement program does have that.
in it.
But some of these, we had such a need, and the way the tuition reimbursement program works is you have to pay the money up front and then get reimbursed second to that. So we've been working with HCC, and I believe they've been covering through some grant the Class B training, which is a little bit more affordable. So that partnership has been, I think, beneficial so far, but that's something as far as workforce development training is really critical right now because we're not getting people coming in off the streets fully qualified. We're having to train them.
Right, so you are right to do, as Andrew said, our tuition reimbursement program that we have does have that built in, so there are some, and so we decided to start looking at that and expanding that out. But you're right, it is a bigger discussion, especially the more expensive, the more extensive certifications that people get in all the departments. We're going to have that same issue.
So police academy, 911 training, I know those don't come with college credits like a tuition reimbursement program would, but that costs taxpayers a considerable amount of money. It's a good investment.
It's a very good investment, but you're right. So we recognize that. So we will be having a larger discussion. We'll be back to talk to you about that as we move forward. And in this particular case, obviously there'd be grade 6s until they acquire their CDL. So right now there's really not much of an impact now, but hopefully it will help us to attract some people and to keep the people we have.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have first and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Transit. Please introduce yourselves in the matter.
Andrew Eshelman, Director of Public Works.
Kevin Cerrone, Director of Washington County Transit.
Good morning. We're here to discuss a proposed Transit Department reorganization. We currently have a Deputy Director of Transit position that's vacant, and so we have the opportunity to look at the overall transit operations and try to address some existing as well as future needs. I see up on the screen, there is an existing and a proposed organizational chart as well as several job descriptions for the changes that we'll be recommending. So first off, the Deputy Director of Transit Grade 14 position is proposed to be eliminated. That Deputy Director served directly under Kevin, supporting the entire operation, but effectively they focused on the daily transit operations. We believe those duties can be managed by dividing the job responsibilities among several upgraded existing employees and consolidating transit supervision. Either it's more or less operations and then fleet facility management are kind of the two sides. Previously, you'll see in the existing model, there were several layers of accountability and management on the driver's side, not necessarily any clear structure to support the passenger and the community needs. So we're recommending a new position, which we're calling Communications and Outreach Manager. They would be overseeing the dispatch of the demand response, and by that we mean more or less our paratransit program, as well as Ride Assist, the taxi voucher, and future microtransit programs. That's kind of the, you make a call, somebody comes and picks you up versus the fixed route, which is the buses that more or less circulate on a set route, more or less on an hourly schedule. That person would also be the primary liaison for transit-related issues and needs in the community. Washington County Transit is an important community social service, and we do support predominantly a lower income demographic, and they're relying on these services for employment, their medical transport, and personal errands. However, our property and buses, we also experience many of the same community-wide social and public health problems, and we believe we can be part of that solution in addressing those needs. So the two existing office associate positions would be upgraded to communication specialists. That aligns more with their current duties and the need associated with route scheduling and responding to customer service issues rather than strictly office administrative responsibilities. So between that communication and outreach manager and these two personnel, we believe we can establish a downtown community office presence at the bus transfer center on Franklin Street behind us here. The existing driver supervisor position would be upgraded to a transit operations supervisor and will manage the drivers, the communications staff, and report directly to the transit director. Overall, these changes are anticipated to be near cost neutral and the best use of existing personnel, and also recognizing that transit is currently a 17-hour-a-day, 6-day-a-week operation, and so there are those needs now as well as future needs of the department. This reorganization focuses mainly on the transit management. However, just as the discussion before us, we continue to have challenges hiring full-time and part-time CDL drivers, and so we do need to revisit that. The summary of the position changes is listed there below. Kevin, is there anything you'd like to add?
Couldn't have done it better. Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have first and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, Fy22 Surplus. I believe that's Kelsey. Please come forward, introduce yourself in the matter. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kelsey Mace, Interim Chief Financial Officer. And today I would like to open the discussion on fiscal year 22 surplus as it relates to our income tax and recordation tax. So this is a potential for a budget adjustment to utilize additional funding to one-time county needs and capital projects. Income and recordation tax revenues have exceeded budget amounts for fiscal year '22. Included in the ARF is a list of projects and recommendations from staff for the allocation of the surplus funds. These recommendations are based on specific reductions made to the capital plan during the FY23 capital budget review process, rising costs due to inflation, and suggestions from previous discussions relating to the anticipated fiscal year '22 surplus. So the total amount we're talking about today is $35 million, $25 million of that related to the income tax, and $10 million of that related to the recordation tax. So do you want me to go through the list of projects?
They're recommended projects, right?
Yes. So two that I would like to bring your attention to, one of them being the Northern Avenue Bridge. This would be a new project based on a bridge out of the Northern Avenue facility at Highways that is close to failing. So that was a need that was brought forward by Scott Hobbs of something that's going to be need replaced immediately. The second item is Wessel Boulevard. That original $2 million was going to be funded through a Department of Commerce loan, but now rather than proceeding with the loan, we would like to replace that with surplus funds.
Where would, I know this is just, I wouldn't be ready to really comment too much on it all, but where would any money we need for EMS fall in here? Where would that come out of?
So that could come out of the $5 million that would be set aside for the operating reserve. That would be kept in the general fund balance that could be drawn out for future expenses. Yeah.
So let me just say, so just a general comment. So once Kelsey determined what the number was going to be. I mean, Kelsey.
And this is going to change because we're not done yet.
So Kelsey had some discussions. I've had some discussions as well with senior staff, and we started looking at these numbers. So that's how we came up with it. So the purpose of today, just so you know, is to get this discussion started. These were some recommendations, and from my perspective, I was looking at it. I mean, there's some things that, whether it's pensions, some other things I think are a good use of surplus funds. Also, some projects that we haven't been able to get to. Obviously, the Northern Avenue Bridge one is a new one that has come up, which is going to have to be replaced. So that's why it's on the list. We have systemic projects that we haven't been able to get to because of funding, and we have a lot of other things. So that's why we started out with this list. Obviously, we wanted to have you a chance to take a look at that. This list isn't finalized by any means. I mean, this board will finalize that, but whatever you all wanted to discuss and about other things. But I want you to know, from a staff perspective, when we have a surplus, we wanted to, again, look for projects that we haven't been able to fund and that have sort of been put off, and also put some money aside because we don't know what this year's going to bring. Because with inflation and all those numbers going forward, all of our projects are going to be more expensive. And we try to factor some of that in, but it was almost, when we started doing the budget back, the end of last year and into January and February, we tried to take that into account, but I don't know if anybody thought we were going to get to 9% inflation. So some of our projects are going to be more expensive. So that's why we wanted to put some money aside, so when these projects come in that we wanted to get done, that the commissioners would have some funding sources that we could use to try to get those projects completed. So that was our general thought. And then we wanted to open up to discussion from an EMS perspective. That's another reason we wanted to put some money aside, because eventually we're going to have a discussion about that sooner rather than later, I think. And that would just be for this year. We'd have to budget it for
Right. So the main focus is one-time costs, because surplus should be a one-time thing. But what we put back in the operating reserve in the general fund balance, that can be used in future years if we were to get into a deficit position.
I'm not throwing stones by any means at anybody, any staff at all, but I mean, it just changes so drastically, and you just said it's going to change again. It just dramatically changes. I mean, at the HCC budget hearing, it was nowhere near any of this, deficits. And I'm not throwing stones, but
right.
I can't make decisions on those big of changes. So are we going to have a pretty tight arena here sometime soon?
So this is going to be the bulk of it. I'm just not sure what the final number is going to be. It's not going to be less than this. It's going to be more. I just don't know how much more. Just based on some year-end adjustments that we're still waiting on. We still have an income tax distribution to come in at the end of August that we're waiting on. That should fit into this unless it's more than what we think it's going to be. I know for the change, our anticipation with the tax rate reduction from the 3.2 to the 3.0, we were expecting less revenue. However, what happened was the growth pretty much outdid that. We didn't see any reduction in revenue.
Which is something that I said when we were talking about this, that I felt would happen. I would like to know out of this list, is there anything in this list that we pushed up off of our capital improvements list?
So it wasn't.
You know what I mean, move them up on your priority list.
So the systemic projects, or the systemic improvements, the IT replacement, general vehicle, highway equipment, and police vehicles. These were budgets in the CIP plan that we didn't reduce 23's allocation, but 24 and out we had cut. So this is just kind of fronting it now, and then in future years, we wouldn't have to add, hopefully not have to add additional money.
Can you tell me those again? I'm sorry.
So it's
Systemic?
the first 5 projects there, the systemic improvements, the IT replacement, general vehicles, highway equipment, and police vehicles.
Is that IT, you mean the radio 911?
No, that's not the radio. That is our ongoing maintenance and replacing of hardware and equipment.
IT equipment.
IT equipment.
The projection for that cost went up, correct?
Yes, so the next project on the list, the P25 communications upgrade for another $2 million, that's the radio tower project.
Okay, the P25.
That's
okay.
right, that's the project that the commissioners put $8 million into last year, and there was already some money there.
There's some in the current plan.
Our latest estimates is we're gonna need that $2 million to get to that point, I think.
When do we look at that project moving forward a little?
Yeah, that went out for a consultant to
Right.
review and project.
Yeah, I don't know, Rick's not here anymore, but.
That was awarded, I think, on the July 26th meeting, that contract.
Right, so that's the consultant to take a look at that. So I don't think the contract's been signed yet, but it's in the process of being, so the consultant will do that study, and then we'll have a better idea as to what.
Of the actual
project, but it's.
We know it's going to go up, probably. The 8 million that we originally.
Yeah,
right?
so this board took $8 million last year and put towards that project, and that was expected because we knew we were going to do that project. And honestly, at that point, we were hoping that that was going to get us there, but that's not going to get us there.
If I could just make a couple more comments. Just in general, I've only been on the board for 14 months, but I have numbers for the last 3 years which total 100, just under, and it may surpass this number. For the last 3 years, $100 million surplus in the last 3 years. In this list that I'm looking at, I don't see anything that in this list that is directly related to the citizens of the county as far as on a personal level. And I say that based on, I brought up a few weeks ago that we have about a $400,000 shortage for Meals on Wheels program. We could feed all the citizens on that list for 1 year with $450,000 of this money. Do it as a grant for this year to get people through this tough time. I said that the last time, and but I really think that getting people fed on the Meals on Wheels program is an important program. Also, I know Randy, Commissioner Wagner mentioned the EMS, but I didn't see anything on here for maybe we're pushing some of these other projects up, and that's why I asked that question. But the public safety facility, for me, public safety was a #1 priority, and I don't see anything in this list to push some of those projects up out at the public safety facility. And I think that should be a priority while we have the income. And then with that comment on the $100 million surplus, I think that says a lot for the citizens of Washington County, the people that are going out there working 8-hour days, 12-hour days to provide us with these funds, and also for county employees who are working hard. You mentioned yesterday that we are coming in under budget, and that's the 3rd time I've heard that comment over the time I've been here. And so it says something about the employees of the county who are working hard to make sure they come in under budget. So You know, we've done 3 tax cuts in the last year, and I think that, you know, I said when I talked about this tax cuts a number of months ago, that maybe take a little time, let's see how money comes in for a while, but if it continues to come in like this, we need to, or the next board needs to keep in mind the citizens. This is the citizens' money, $100 million in surplus. So I would really like us to see if we can't help the Meals on Wheels program. That's an important program. We need to feed our citizens, especially the elderly.
And I would just say, you know, I think, I hear what you're saying, and I am not opposed to any of that. You know, these projects are all for the good of the citizens. Most of these projects are, and I just want to clarify, we're not moving projects up. What happened during the budget process is, it wasn't FY23, but we have them programmed for a number of years in the past. So we pushed some of those back to balance the budget for this year, I believe.
Right.
We
In
cut
those out
some
years,
of that
we
money.
took some money out.
So what we're trying to do is, we're not moving them up, we're trying to get them back to where they were before, so we don't have to borrow some of that money down the road. Is that right?
Right, so that's
Correct me if I'm wrong.
part of it, that we wouldn't have to put as much in those years when they come around. However, I know last week, Alan was in here about the police vehicles and the price hikes on those. I'm hearing from highways, $12,000 more per dump truck that they're trying to acquire now, and they're looking for money. So these price hikes that we're seeing is also having an effect that these projects may need more funding to get the simple vehicles that we need.
When we discussed those, though, it was brought up, and you were sitting here, it was brought up that we could afford those based on where we were currently at.
I wasn't
in the
here for
budget
last
cycle.
week's.
No, not last week. I wasn't here either. I was relaxing on a beach that I should have had 3 years ago. No, this was a few weeks ago, when, or maybe even a month or better, when we were talking about some of those police vehicles, the cost going up. We were talking about where that money would come from.
I think some of it was gonna come out of their 23 allocation to where they would buy less vehicles.
Right, and so now, though, we're going to take it
Now
out
we're-
of the surplus.
Yes,
So
that's a recommendation.
that's where I'm coming from, John, when I
Yeah.
say, you know,
Right.
there's things in
Some of
here
those things.
that we already said, well, you can do it this way.
Right.
But now we're,
Yeah, and so that, you're right.
all
That-
I'm
that-
asking for is 500,000 to feed the elderly. And
Yeah, and, you know, obviously, you know, operating reserve, and capital contingency are money that we're talking about putting aside or leaving where it is, so we can make these decisions, so this board can make these decisions as they move along, because things will come up this year too. So we wanted to make sure that we have, a significant amount of money that you will be able to spend when worthwhile projects come forward. So, but thank you, and I
and
appreciate
you
it.
put 13.6 million in that reserve, so that's really good.
You talked about income tax distributions. We would be receiving information soon.
Yes, we should have one last allocation that'll be attributed to FY22 here at the end of August.
So you're anticipating that to increase?
So I'm anticipating the 25 million based on if we receive the same level as what we got last year. If it comes in more or less, then that 25 million will be more or less.
So,
But this was including,
so are you
That
anticipating more or less? I'm just asking.
I don't really know.
Okay.
Because this is a, part of it's going to be a reconciling distribution, that if in the first two they overpaid us, then it'll be less. But if they didn't overpay us, then it could be more.
Kelsey, have you heard any more about the, what's the status of, we had these conversations over several meetings about unemployment not being taxable, and the county may have to pay that back, and that conversation started more than a year ago.
And I still don't have a clear answer on that. The last I had reached out to the state, they thought it was going to come out of the one January distribution that was a reconciling distribution. Some other counties had received less, we had received more. So it's unclear to me if they kept the 5 million out and there was just that much more, or if they haven't taken it back.
Is there someone we can ask for a clarification on that
I can reach out again and
reconciling?
see if-
Even our, delegation for an answer. I know how the numbers come in, maybe lump sums, but someone somewhere in the state should have that fine level detail, because if we still are obligated to return that money, we need to save some money aside for that. If the state has already returned it, then we can stop planning for it
Sure.
to be returned. And that, excuse me, that would paint a more clearer picture as well for our taxes going forward if that reconcilement included a reimbursement for the unemployment taxes that were paid that were later, the taxpayer didn't have to pay.
Right.
Then, you know, our income tax revenues have just increased that much more.
I personally would like to wait and see this distribution the end of August, since it's only a couple weeks away. I'd like to also see an EMS plan unless it's really prolonged out there. And I'd like to see more detailed information on these projects. And it's like Commissioner Berger was talking about, the feeding Meals on Wheels. I'd like to see more detailed things that we could do. But I am not comfortable doing much of anything until I see what that EMS plan is. Because we don't know how much, we have no clue how much that's going to cost.
I think we were looking at about $1 million, well, under $1 million. 700,000 was the last number Dave gave us.
All right, and he's working on that. We're going to come in soon on that, so.
Yeah, and
It'll
that would
it'll
be
in September.
ongoing.
It'll be in September. That'll be an ongoing cost, but it's not, but I think Commissioner Wagner's point is it's not budgeted for this year. So we're going to have to fund it this year and then budget it for next year, right, and moving forward. So,
Just a little bit more details, and then I'll be fine.
I mean, we can provide you more details about all these. I mean, we have that information already.
Yes.
While you're getting more details for us, with regards to the pension, I know there's been many swings in the stock market recently in the last couple months. Could we have an updated figure as to what an additional $5 million, how much that would improve our percentage funding? Because I think when that last was shared with us was
60%.
Yeah, and you're right.
Several months ago.
It has taken a hit this year.
It has.
So, but we can get that information. We can get the most recent. And we can, I don't think we've asked the question of exactly where that gets us, or maybe you have.
I
But
don't
we can-
think
we can
well,
get that
not since
exact
this
number.
last quarter has been,
Right.
we have
We'll get-
results from
We can
investments.
get that information to see where that puts us. But yeah, it's been an interesting year as we all know. It's been an interesting year. So I thought, although I think it wasn't as big of a hit as it could have been for us, but based on that whole, third and a third and a third. But I think, yeah, we can get that information for you as part of this discussion.
On the pension, does that number include adding anything for what we just did for the increase in the retirement benefit for healthcare?
Different fund.
I don't think, yeah, it's a
No,
different.
that's a different fund.
Different fund.
And we'll be coming forth with a further discussion on that around that contribution that's already budgeted in the '23 budget.
Okay, any other questions?
Okay.
Hearing none. Thank you very much.
And we'll look at that, but if you have questions along the way or you have things you want to talk about, just feel free to reach out to us.
Yep.
Motion to go into closed session.
Motion to go into closed session.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oh, man, does it feel good to stand up.